Right. So, in today's session, we are going to discuss about a case study or a project in context to the Workday application. Before I'm getting into that, let me explain you what exactly Workday application is all about. As we all know, Workday is an application which is majorly used in HR and financial services sector, widely across industries, uh, different companies, all that stuff. So one of the major services in context to the Workday is to manage HCM, which is called Human Capital Management and all that. So like that, even financial services and all everything can also be used using Workday application. In regard to that, whenever, as in when we are discussing about Workday case study, because as part of our training for a couple of weeks, as in when we are working on Workday, as in when I'm teaching about Workday application, right? So from the different role context. So being into the learning perspective, you guys were learning the Workday application, it's always important for you to understand about some project or a case study. So which is something helpful to you to have some hands-on exposure. I don't say experience, but hands-on exposure is what something essentially required. In that regard, this case study is helpful to you. And once the case study is done, as I mentioned you in the beginning of the session yesterday I have told you, there are some assignments which I'll be providing on day-to-day basis and weekly basis as well, wherein you guys have to work upon that. Now, let's get into the case study. This case study, which normally I have taken about payroll implementation advocacy for cloud. For any infrastructure IT technology company using Workday. First of all, when we try to understand about the case study, or when we try to understand, especially from the context of the business analyst, I'm saying all that. Because most of the people who are as enrolled here in the class training, I could see many people were belongs to business analysis side. So Workday business analyst, that's what generally the role you guys are planning to do. In this regard, first of all, we should understand few things. One, we need to understand about the kind of challenge being a business analyst. At the same time, what kind of solution are we going to provide? We need to understand. So once we understood how we understood this project or a problem and what kind of solution are you going to provide, all these things comes under the next level. So this is what something which on a overall high level note, which normally this will be used for. Now, let's get into the case study as in when I mentioned you. First of all, being into the role of a business analyst and all. So first of all, we should understand the challenge. Because unless until if there is no challenge is identified, providing solution will be of no value nor use. So challenge is important, right? So what is the challenge? Because as I stated in the beginning itself, it's a technology company majorly focusing on developing some cloud-based solutions and all everything for their customers across the world. As part of their implementation, as part of their application usage of applications for various requirements, they are using a Workday application for human capital management for a very quite a long time. Right? So that's what it was, right? So they were using it for some time. So this is majorly they were using for different purposes. It's not only for human capital management. They are using this for benefits absence and as well as time taking and all that. But here you could ask me one thing, in what way, if people are working on Workday and all everything, what is that something which we can do, right? So what is the problem then? Then when they are using Workday application, then what else we do? Everything is going on well and fine. But the problem here is, as it was mentioned here, whatever the implementation in context to the in-house implementation or expertise which generally they are implementing, doesn't have any kind of expertise from the payroll point of view, because even though they may be having technical team may have some knowledge over human capital management, all that, but they don't have much idea over the expertise from the context of the payroll module in Workday. That was the major challenge being into business analyst, as in when we interacting with stakeholders and all everything, we need to know that. That is what something the challenge which organization is facing. Next, apart from that, there were different challenges apart from the one which I have told you. So there were other challenges, and the challenges were mentioned here. You can see that because there were one of the challenge where extremely short window between identifying the need for assistance and go live date. This is also one of the core and important challenge which organizations are facing, because this requires some kind of sensitive timing between the final payroll completions, at the same time loading the pay history, starting the new processes and all. But generally, the kind of window, whatever the kind of challenges they were involving, they have identified is very shorter in window point of view. So when it comes to the implementation, as far as the observation of the payroll itself is concerned, it requires some kind of sensitive timing between the final payroll completions and all. At the same time, loading pay history, starting new processes and all. This majorly includes immediate processing of large stakeholder payrolls. But make sure they have to integrate that. That is so important, because normally when there is any kind of application development we do, there will be two things. One is configuration, second is an integration part. Configuration, according to the organization business rules and government mandates, we are doing that. From the context of integration, when we talk about integration, Workday with some other modules, let's say payroll module is what something which they were not expertise of. So payroll module, they want to connect with some human capital management or something. This is what something which normally which they doesn't have it, which they were expecting. This is also one of the key element we have to be understood. Next, at the same time, in continuation to that, it was already stated, like, because whoever the end users on the payroll team, but normally, unfortunately, they are not involving in designing, testing, or implementation of the project because of the unfamiliarity over the system task and functionality. Because when we are trying to understand Workday application, or when you try to understand working on Workday application from the design point of view, testing point of view, implementation point of view, it's always important for us to understand about how system tasks and functionalities will work in Workday. That is what something functional element which technical people must be good with. Unfortunately, they were not familiar with. That's what mentioned it. At the same time, when it comes to the nature of their roles itself is concerned, these nature of roles are changing very often, right? So between the systems and all. So which is leading to the complication while they are implementing Workday payroll. So whatever the lack of technical expertise they have mentioned over here in context to the Workday payroll, this is what the major reasons. What are the reasons and why they have lacking the technical expertise or something expertise and all to implement the Workday application? These are all the points were mentioned. So my advice to you, you need to go through the case study once and twice and thrice. So you need to work upon it. It's of course in coming days I'm going to give you the assignments to you, wherein I'll give you a business plan how this can be implemented on that. Wherein in part of the training you need to work upon that. Okay, so this is one thing you have to do it. So next, in context to that, what solution are you going to provide? Because understanding the challenge is not only sufficient. End of the day, we must be having the knowledge over the solution. What is that are we going to provide? In regard to that, there were some solutions which was mentioned over here, because the infrastructure company or the software solutions company, which are more into the cloudware services, cloud services and that, they have partnered with a company called Qlient. because they want to implement guideware payroll module in their organization as part of their services. Hence, they wants to partner with some company, whoever has their expertise and all. So that generally they have partnered with some company called Qlient. So what Qlient is doing, right? So assume that we were working for a company called Qlient and we are providing some kind of solutions to the customer. See, always think it's not advisable to think always from the business analyst point of view. Sometimes we should think from the end user point of view also, right? So if you are trying to understand from the end user so that you will be understood well advanced. Of course, it's not only the thinking person of a BA. If you are a developer or an admin or an architect level, or you are a testing level and all, it's always advisable not only think from our role, advisable to think from the user perspective. You have to put your legs in the shoes of a end user, and if you think so that you will be knowing about the what exactly the kind of practical problem they were facing, all that stuff, right? So this is how generally you need to understand. Now, in context to that, what Qlient team is doing, Qlient team is establishing regular meetings, these weekly twice meetings with stakeholders and all. So they are discussing majorly about the project goals, because in the beginning of the sessions, I have mentioned you very clear about this. Because understanding the goals and objectives of the project is one of the core and important element one should be good with. So understanding about the project goals is the key element one should be knowing. So what are the different project goals do we have, right? So all these things will be known over here. So we must be knowing about the project goals, and so that we need to interact with stakeholders and all that. At the same time, whatever the payroll and security configurations which are to be reviewed for the best practices. So that sort of element, right? So that sort of understanding over the documentation from the flowchart documentation point of view, so that it will reflect on the new systems and procedures is all about. So this is the major activity which Qlient, when they have partnered with the company, IT company, services company, which Qlient is being partnered with. So that whatever the requirements customer is having, whatever the requirements customer has, and whatever the kind of technical designs which customer is expecting us to develop, or the one which they are already having. So it's always advisable for us to discuss with some HR system teams and all, so that they will be knowing about what exactly the earlier system was and how this can be implemented. Everything will be known here. And this is what the solution, because this is not something which you can understand on some time or some so, right? So you, because anyway this case study I have already forwarded to you guys. I think hope you are going through that. So please go through the case study, because there are some modules which, because it's not only about the solution, but how the solution can be implemented. What are the features, what are the functional and non-functional requirements we need to identify, and how this business problem can be translated into a business solution, how the business solution will be translated into a technical solution, and how the what kind of communication medium are we following and all. All these things will be discussed one after another in coming days in context to this case study. That's what in the beginning of the session today I told you. Because about workday and all everything, how it is working and all that I already explained earlier in the earlier sessions. Hope you know that. So this is all about. Please go through the case study. So if you have any questions, tomorrow I'll give you 1 day time. Please go through the case study. If you have any questions, first of all, come up with the questions. Let me solve those questions to you. So once I have solved the questions, then assignments will be provided on day-to-day basis, weekly basis, so that if you work upon this, so that you get some live exposure over the project which is provided for you now. Okay, this is all about session today, because this is a short session I've taken, because you should have time to go through this case study also. Please go through that, and we'll discuss more about this case study, discuss about more about the assumptions, dependencies, and all everything in next session. Okay, see you then. Bye.